So if you've been following my channel lately, you'll know that I recently participated in the SANDBOX Metaverse game Season 2 Alpha, which I actually completed all of the quests for. And although I didn't win the lottery for the NFTs, I actually did get the guaranteed completion reward of Sand token valued at several $100s. And not only that, I also participated in another Metaverse event, which is the Decentraland's Fashion Week, where I also went on to collect some free NFTs as well. However, even with all that said, and obviously free NFTs in crypto are really nice to have, and I'm super grateful to have gotten them, and I will continue to participate in events should they continue to happen. But in this video, I want to address some fundamental issues with not only the aforementioned metaverses, but also metaverses in general, and what you can actually look out for should you want to get your foot in the door and be early on some of the future upcoming metaverse and NFT projects that will actually last long and prevail into the future. So how I was able to earn the 95 free sand tokens from the SANDBOX Metaverse was by participating in their Season 2 Alpha experience, which lasted throughout March, and with each day or each few days unlocking a new so-called experience, which is basically a series of mini games on each portion of their metaverse map, so to speak, right? So each portion of their map would have a different theme, for example, and would also host different brands like Snoop Dogg, things like Atari, and other brands like Celsius, and so on and so forth. My initial hope though was that I would be one of the lucky winners of their Season 2 Alpha Pass, along with 1,000 sand tokens, both of which would be worth a substantial amount, and that I can actually, or anybody can actually cash out and then sell on, say, OpenSea and other cryptocurrency exchanges, right, for the NFT and the crypto respectively. However, I did not win, even though the odds were actually pretty good, as you can see, the number of tickets you can get as a completely free-to-play player was about 510, which I actually got all of. If you pay for other things, like if you stake sand tokens by owning sand tokens in the first place, right, you have to buy the cryptocurrency, and if you own certain NFTs like the Snoop Dogg NFTs and so on and so forth, or like land in the metaverse, this combined as a paying user would get you a maximum of 1,200 tickets, right? And even if you're a paying, user of SANDBOX, you might not have all of these either, right? So even as a free-to-play player, the odds of winning the Season 2 pass was relatively good compared to people who had paid for, additional chances. Unless technically people could like create additional accounts and things like that, but I'm not going to get into that because that's technically against the rules. But anyhow, I did not win, although the guaranteed rewards I did get, which was awesome, which included a Season 2 memorabilia, which by the way is not an NFT. I sort of made a mistake in one of my previous videos. I called it an NFT. So this is a sort of boost to Season 3 actually. So by completing level 5 of these, so basically once you cleared a certain number of quests, numbers of quests, you get raffle tickets as a reward. And if you get to all 5 levels, which I did, as you can see here, you can actually get this memorabilia, which actually boosts your rewards for future seasons, right? So not just Season 3, potentially. And this is one of the rewards, guaranteed rewards. Second guaranteed rewards is, as you can see from the top right, I actually have 95 MSAN. This is on the Polygon network in my wallet, right, or in my SANDBOX account, right? So this is the guaranteed rewards, the reward that everybody got only if you completed every single experience and every single quest on the SANDBOX. As you can see, I have all the green check marks. Well, there are a few exceptions, like the lobby I didn't have to do, right? But other than the lobby and this climbing madness experience, these two were not counted towards the 100% completion. So I completed every single thing, every single game, every single mini map on this larger map, and that's why I got the 95 MSAN. There's actually one extra thing that you could have gotten, but I didn't get it, is if you did the there's this experience here called the Meta Dungeon RTFKT. I really did not like it. It was not fun at all. I had to follow a YouTube tutorial to complete it. But I'll get to that in just a bit, right? I'll critique this game thoroughly in just a bit. But anyhow, if you actually completed this experience, the first week that it came out, which I didn't do, right? I did it a bit later. If you did this the first week that it came out, you would have gotten additional sand tokens as well. I think it was 25 or 35, bringing your total to over 100, 120, about 130 or more sand tokens if you did everything, early on. Now, if you've been following NFT and Metaverse news as of late, you'll know that the SANDBOX has been quite in the headlines, securing funding rounds and things like other sponsorships, and also say large, companies and corporations and celebrities buying land within the Metaverse. But despite all this hype, and I've really tried to give the SANDBOX and other similar metaverses like Decentraland and CryptoVoxels the benefit of the doubt, I've also done a lot of research, not only playing through both alpha seasons of the SANDBOX, but also doing extensive research on not only the white paper of SANDBOX, which basically is a document that explains the tokenomics, which is how the SAND token is supposed to work, its ecosystem economics, as well as its plans for the metaverse right now and also moving forward, and also did other forms of research. I believe there are some fundamental issues with these types of metaverses right now that you should definitely be aware of, and that you should consider, especially if you want to become sort of an investor or somebody who wants to perhaps participate in some of these metaverses moving forward. Because especially there are so many major players, in fact the vast majority of players as in businesses and influencers who would like to be involved with the metaverse and perhaps advertise and sell in the metaverses, that are still holding back because they're actually waiting for the metaverses or metaverse that will actually prevail and become the dominant force or forces, right? And so far a lot of people are still skeptical. Again, these sort of large influences, which will actually become the main driving force after they identify which metaverse or metaverses they want to actually invest in, right? Despite, again, there already being a lot of investment in, places like the SANDBOX, Decentraland, etc. I think there's a high possibility that these projects may actually, fail even, or even become a lot less popular if some of the other prominent players rise up and even some of the investors move over to these projects instead. And also those who are holding back actually start investing, which again are the majority, start investing in these newer projects instead.
Of course!
So with that, getting into some of the major issues of the SANDBOX and associated metaverses, like again, Decentraland and CryptoVoxels, which could limit their investability, value, and longevity, is that first of all, the game mechanics and engine are quite poorly optimized and set up, in that the gameplay and just the user experience of being in the metaverse is very limited. There are very few mechanics and just feels bland. And speaking specifically about the SANDBOX, I actually gave it a chance to improve between Season 1 and Season 2 because I had already thought the same thing for Season 1, and that the gameplay was quite boring and very limited in that you couldn't really have any skill expression. For example, in combat, you can just attack and defend. You can charge up your attack for a range attack, but that's pretty much it. And the combat is just extremely simple. Basically, you can block any attack if you just right click, and the indication that something will attack you is very, very clear. So it's not really fun in my opinion. However, that was in Season 1, right? But in Season 2, I thought, it might have a chance to improve or develop different types of gameplay, which it kind of did, but it wasn't nearly enough to impress me or, make me want to play the game. This is very important, crucial, beyond wanting to just play it for the rewards, right? Which I think is the main problem right now, especially for the alpha specifically, which is that, again, people were playing these experiences not to experience the metaverse and not to have fun, but rather just to earn the rewards that were promised to them.
Is this some sort of peasant joke that I'm too rich to understand?
And at this point, a lot of enthusiasts would probably argue, well, the SANDBOX and the metaverse is not just meant for gaming, it's actually for socializing and to attend events. Well, what I have to say against that is that there are actually better alternatives for that as well, right? To my understanding. For instance, if we just take the Snoop Dogg experience, which I, did partake in as an example, I thought it was frankly quite cringy. It was basically like the Snoop Dogg mansion. I don't even know if it represents his real mansion, but anyway, it's like a Snoop Dogg mansion with a bunch of NPC characters that don't really do anything. There are a few quests here and there, but you can't really interact with anything at all besides those like really dumb and fetch quests, basically like find this, find that, collect this, collect that. That was another part of the gameplay that I hadn't mentioned just yet, if that can even count as gameplay, right? So some of the major categories of quests are basically, go to this place, collect this, kill that. That's pretty much it. Very simple. But anyway, back to Snoop Dogg. I thought it was cringy because the whole piece of land or the whole experience just felt really lifeless. There weren't a lot of other players around, which might have actually partially contributed to it, but it wasn't an experience that facilitated socializing, right? The characters there, the NPC characters, were just all spouting one-liners, like Snoop Dogg facts, and just like pretending, like acting like they, the whole experience is so cool and that, they know all these Snoop Dogg facts and whatnot, but it was just not cool in my opinion.
It's only a game. Why you have to be mad?
And what I mean by there being better alternatives is that, for example, Snoop Dogg can just live stream an event on twitch.tv, right? And he can actually make it exclusive as well to Prime members or like Amazon Prime members and things like that, right? Or like give them special perks, right? Because again, Twitch is owned by Amazon, and as a Prime member, you can actually do things like type in the chat, right, interact with the streamer and so on and so forth. And in fact, Snoop Dogg hasn't done this before, right? He has done this before. He streamed video games on twitch.tv, and has a ton of fans on twitch.tv, right? Right here on YouTube is another platform alternative where influencers, musicians, whatever it is, whoever it is, can host events, live events at that. There are DJs who do DJ sets, again on Twitch and also on YouTube, to live audiences, and there are ways to interact with fans right through the chat, which is a great way to interact. And if we even just compare that to the Sandbox and some of the other metaverses, the chat system is just very clunky. You can't really send direct messages to the creator himself, right? For example, if you're on a map and there are a bunch of different streamers or whatever, how are they gonna know who to interact with, or like who are their fans, right? Whereas on Twitch, it's just one channel for each like influencer, right? And each Twitch streamer would just interact with their fans, his or her fans, on their own Twitch or Twitch chat, right? Which makes it a much better experience in my opinion. And just like the whole optimization issues and like just how the chat actually works in the Sandbox is again very clunky, and just not many people actually go and read it. There's not a lot going on there, and there's not a lot of other social like elements or functionalities that the Sandbox offers, other than you being able to, again, dress up your avatar, go inside the world, which does have some value in and of itself. But there are other, games or experiences that do this as well, right? Granted, they're not really decentralized, right? That's what the Sandbox has going for it technically. It's like a decentralized platform. But I believe the greater threat to metaverses like the Sandbox moving forward is thus if a game or a platform can optimize the aforementioned aspects really, really well. That's the more difficult part in my opinion, right? Designing a really good engine, designing a really fun and engaging game and experience, not only for playing as enjoying as game, maybe that's secondary, but more importantly for like incentivizing, socializing, and wanting to actually be in the metaverse without being incentivized by like rewards like with the alpha we just had, which are chances at free NFTs, free cryptos and whatnot, right? Although technically with these like metaverses, you can also earn cryptos, earn rewards through doing things in the metaverse, right? That's sort of an upcoming thing for the Sandbox, but that's not to say that this can be possible as well for other future metaverses, right? Again, if a certain, say, future platform, let's say Facebook comes out with something, or Meta, right? They're now known as Meta. Let's say Meta comes out with something, and they could very well do so, right? Because they have a lot of data that they collected through the Oculus, experiences, user data of all sorts, and just really top-notch engineers, right? They could definitely create an experience, a metaverse experience, a virtual reality experience, where the gameplay is solid, the social access is solid. There are other ways to utilize the platform beyond what we already have, right, through like live streaming and whatnot, which incentivizes people to go in, and then they develop their tokenomics on top of that. I believe that's the larger hurdle and the more difficult thing to do, and the more important thing, again, designing a great platform, fun, interactive, social experience, immersive experience. That's a lot harder to do and a lot more important compared to the decentralization part of it, which they can just develop the system first and then do the decentralization, the tokenomics, issue the NFTs, you know, make things as NFTs and have a cryptocurrency that backs it after the fact, right? That is a lot easier to pull off in my opinion. Not to mention monetization in terms of having an in-game economy, not only for the users but also potentially the, you know, platform developers as well, works a lot better if people actually want to own NFTs and want to participate in the metaverse, you know, for the sake of doing so, rather than there being like carrots on a stick, right? That just makes things a lot easier and just creates an actual ecosystem and economy. And so that is precisely why, unless they significantly upgrade their game engine and improve upon different aspects of their experience, I don't think the sandbox and again similar metaverses will become dominant players in the space, in the metaverse space in the future, and in the near future at that. And this is especially true since other players are already encroaching upon the space. For example, Epic Games, which is famous for developing a lot of mainstream AAA titles, is teaming up with LEGO to create their own metaverse. And not to mention there are other developers and games like Minecraft, which is owned by Microsoft, right? There's Minecraft and Roblox, both of which are extremely successful, much larger than what the sandbox currently is. And if they were to incorporate some kind of tokenomics into their game, which in my opinion they can quite easily do, you know, that could just be a quick switch from people who might want to play the sandbox to these very similar looking yet more fun and more flexible games, right? And there are other players getting in as well, very mainstream players that you should definitely keep an eye on. It's not clear who's going to be the winner, if there really is just going to be one. I think it's quite likely that we'll end up with either one or a few dominant players, and by a few I mean like, you know, being able to be counted with a hand, with fingers. That's likely in my opinion, especially with some of these more monopolistic, right, companies having so many resources like Google, Microsoft, Facebook being involved, and also gaming companies potentially being involved as well, right? And especially with players like Microsoft, you know, buying up gaming companies like Activision Blizzard, which has had a great track record of developing, you know, these gameplay and social experiences. And with that, that is pretty much all I want to discuss in today's video. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below, and I will definitely try to reply to your comment. And with that, I will see you in the next video. Peace.